Nathalie Lennon, how are we doing?
James Hempton. I'm good.
I am so excited for this conversation, like I just kind of stated a few minutes ago, because I've been dying to have a female on the podcast. Well, you're a female inside of the dating games at the moment, so I am intrigued to get your perspective on all things dating, because I do believe a lot of men nowadays, you probably experienced this in the past as well, are shocking.
Absolutely shocking.
Absolutely shocking
James,
at dating.
I'm so excited to be a guest on the other side here and talk about it.
Yeah.
Because for so long, just to give people a bit of background, for a long period of my life, I was single. So I feel like I have a lot of personal insight to give on that. Then I got into a relationship, so I can give more insight there. But also being a host of the Dating Games podcast, I get so much from other people that I feel like I can continue to share and
you
give back.
Get people sharing their stories with you.
So much. Yeah. And I love it. I really love
I
this
love it as
sphere.
well, because I think what you're doing is bringing awareness to the actual topic.
It's taboo for so many people, or those who are single, and maybe like in their 20s or 30s and all their friends are partnered off. You want to find someone who will just talk about it and understand, where you are in life in comparison to like friends or family who might not understand it. I just love talking about it all.
I love it as well. I think women get more of a kick. I feel like women think about love so often.
Yes.
Do they? Yeah.
I think so much more. I do think we're just wired that way. I think
yeah.
there's always exceptions and outliers when it comes to the male mind, and some males who are just so much more emotional and have more depth. But I think just from my dealings with guests, but with guys over the years, girls are so much more emotional beings.
Yeah, they say women spend all their time in their bodies and men spend all their time in their heads.
Yeah.
And where you feel emotion is in your body. So
it's so true.
Before we break into it, I think it's a good idea to I was going to say marital status, but that's married, isn't it?
Yeah,
relationship
we're
status.
not married yet. We're not even engaged.
I feel like that's a very Facebook thing, relationship status back in the day. But what is your current
I'm pretty sure my Facebook relationship status could be single, as could his.
Gotta get that changed,
I just
Natalie.
don't use Facebook anymore. But listen, I plastered over social media enough. So I'm coming up nearly to the 1 year mark with my boyfriend Max. I met him last October for the first time when I asked him to come on to do a radio interview about his career, because I'm a radio host part-time in Kilkenny.
Was this all planned?
Absolutely
This is
not.
all the master plan. Get him on the show and tie him down.
It's crazy because my whole life I've known Max.
way.
He is 7 years younger than me. 7.5 nearly.
So you're a bit of a cougar.
So this is the joke. Like, I'm always getting sent. Literally, a friend of mine, Louise Cody, sent me a TikTok this morning, which was about me being a cougar. But I'm like, you know what? Fair, I'll take it. When I met him first, I suppose I always knew of Max. I knew who he was. Our parents are close friends. And I genuinely just, when I was covering on the show, I'm like, I need to get people on to interview. I was producing and presenting when I was covering for that week.
Yeah.
And I knew he'd be someone who might be up for coming down. He had a big race coming up. I knew nothing about his career, which is a professional race car driver. He drives touring cars, so he races in TCR Asia. Asked me to tell you much more than that, and I'm probably not the girl to do it. But that's how I first met him. He said he knew then that he wanted to try and pursue things, get to know me further.
Oh, wow.
I was going through a really poor self-confidence patch with my skin, and I just wasn't opening up my doors to anyone. But he didn't stop trying.
Good man.
He asked, could he run a half marathon with me, which was at the beginning of December. And I was like, if anyone's mad enough to run a half marathon, the people organising it was the Border Half in Clare and Limerick. We're happy to have someone jump in last minute. Come on down. I'm happy for that. Thanks to him, I ran a good time because he just kept pushing
me. And had you at this stage got to know each other? Or
no,
was
this was the first time we saw each other since the interview in October. So this time had passed. He'd been away, he'd been racing. Yeah, and he just decided to run the half marathon. Even then, James, I was like, this is not a thing. He just likes running. I like running.
And did you fancy him
at
all?
Go.
Did you fancy him?
Oh, he walked in. I was like, you have grown into this tall, dark, handsome man.
Oh, no way.
Because I remembered him.
Wait, how long was it from?
I remembered him being shorter than me.
Like. Oh, yeah.
Because we knew their family for years.
How old was he when you interviewed him?
So he would have been 22 and I would have been 29.
So he took a bit of a growth spurt.
And now, well, no, like I would have known of Max from when he was like, I'd say 10, like.
Okay.
And I would have been 17.
Right.
But you can't think about it that way now because it's different.
Yeah. You get locked up nowadays for that, Natalie.
Yeah, I know. But listen, getting to know him, doing the run, it's been such an experience. Like starting the Dating Games podcast, I was single.
That's right, I remember that. Yeah.
I wanted to start it because of the difficulties in the single world and the minefield that is dating. And it's been a process then shifting into, obviously when I'm interviewing, and I know it's probably the same for you when we're speaking about this, when you're interviewing from when you're single, You have completely different perspectives to now interviewing in a relationship. I feel so much more hopeful. Hope that I didn't have when I started the Dating Games podcast.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, like
you're
it just
bringing
happened.
You're bringing that into the podcast.
I
as
really
well.
love that I've brought kind of listeners through it.
Because I remember you coming in here and yourself and Damien at the time doing the podcast together. And you were single. I think he could have been single as well. And I remember thinking in my head, what happens if one of them gets in a relationship? What if they both get in a relationship?
And it was a
but it's
question
kind of
we
a good
always had.
evolution of the podcast to show,
Yeah.
you know, I was single.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a relationship. And then you're working through the relationship.
And
There's so many departments in a relationship as well.
That's where I've had to be kind of careful to be like, well, like he is a social media, I don't want to say personality, but like personality as well.
Yeah.
Now he's so big on social media because of what he does. Like it's so rare. He's gotten so high up in what he does. And then I do it in a different way. So our relationship is online, but we don't want every aspect of our relationship to be online.
Do you know what I find so
in the
strange nowadays, Natalie? You probably see this popping up
Yeah.
everywhere. Is a couple having a shared Instagram account. Do you see this nowadays?
Yeah,
Or TikTok?
not a fan.
That's weird. It's not weird. It's not like weird, but it's just kind of weird.
I just think
like,
it's too much pressure. Like
It is.
Max and I have, you know, put up
Yes.
a few things together, a few photos together. I've popped them onto like 1 or 2 reels in the background, but I'm also like, I don't want to be pushy. This isn't your thing. And every time you do, it brings an added element of pressure. Like every couple goes through their highs and lows. Like
Yeah.
not everything is like a complete high. So you don't want to share too much online because you got to work through that in private. Like I want my relationship to be private at the same time I want it to be something I'm not hiding.
Yeah, of course.
So
yeah.
it's finding that balance right now. But it's been a fun year. It's been a good journey.
That is interesting, yeah. And like I said, it works well for the podcast you're doing
Yeah,
as well, which is
it
an added
has.
bonus. If anyone is wondering, I'm single. And my Instagram will be in the bio.
I love it.
Just to make that nice and clear. The first place I want to start with this conversation today, Natalie, is attraction. Because I think that is like the initial, you know, when you meet someone, I think it's just how it goes is you have to be somewhat attracted to them or aroused. Yeah. From a female's perspective, how does that actually work inside the female brain with attraction? Like what is the first thing that you notice if, you know, even for let's say, you know, Max, right?
Yeah.
What is the first thing you notice in a man that is attractive?
So, right. I feel like this is a difficult one because I don't want to be shallow or superficial. But obviously, one of the first things you're going to notice is the physicals.
But that's not shallow, though.
When someone walks into your room.
Yeah.
I think if you don't care about what's beneath the surface, then it gets shallow. Like, obviously, he walked in, or, you know, in my past, throughout the years, someone would walk into the room or whatever it was. I'm like, God, he's handsome. But is he? Like straight away, I think I've done too much work and podcasts and whatever it is over the years that I'm like, but does he know it? Is he cocky? Is he actually a decent person? Is there space for me in his life with him?
Yeah.
So yes.
These questions automatically start running through your mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like, yes, he's handsome.
Isn't it funny how we like jump to that straight away, isn't it? 'Cause
I think
a lot
for
of people
me,
do.
Yeah, sorry, James. I think for me, that's because though, like my very first relationship that I ended up heartbroken from, like at the time I thought he was a really handsome guy and that's all I cared about at the beginning. And I think did we meet on a dating app? I can't remember. I would have been 19 or 20 at the time. But he's probably changed and progressed over the years and developed. But at the time, do you know what? It was all looks. And I don't think I really cared. I kept on telling myself like, oh, he'll probably become deeper or he'll become more caring or he'll become more sensitive or he'll take me into account more. But he didn't because he was just too caught up in himself. And I hope he's progressed and changed since then. But I think that taught me a lesson to look so much further beneath the surface. Like I love this show, Love is Blind on Netflix. I want to be the host of the Irish version. I know there's a UK one now, but like I just love that because I do think that if there's a wall between two people, you can fall in love with the soul. I do believe that, but physicals just mean too much to people. So when it comes to the first element of attraction, I do think physicals play a part. But I think for anyone who is any like just small amount of sense or depth or growth or you know, just development within them, they're gonna care about so much more than the physicals quite quickly.
Of course, I get where you're coming from. So stage one would be obviously the physical.
Yeah.
What would stage two be
then?
If like, you know, you meet someone or you see someone, they're attractive, they walk over, they introduce themselves, they say, how are you getting on? What comes next then? Like, is there another layer on top of that in regards to attraction? Because you
yeah.
can see attractive person.
There's so
But
many
there might
words.
be like
Yeah.
nothing between you, like no chemistry or no feeling back and forth, or the vibe just isn't
Yeah.
there.
There's
What
so
would come
many
next?
words that come to mind, but you literally just said one that I think is key, and that's chemistry.
Mm.
I think chemistry, connectivity, that's going to be probably number 2.
Where do you think that comes from? Chemistry. Just, we're not going to put any science attached to it,
Yeah.
but like, where do you think the chemistry of two people comes from? Is it just a natural thing that happens, or?
It's such a deep question, but I think it doesn't need to be as deep as it sounds. You've answered it just there. I think it's natural.
It's just natural.
I think if chemistry is going to be there, you're going to know from the get-go, and it's not something that you have to force. I think for too long in my single years, I was forcing chemistry or trying to, because I'm like, no, well, look, he's a handsome guy. He ticks all the boxes on paper. He's really nice. He's really mannerly. He's a gentleman. So this could work. I just need to like just keep going. Just go on the second date, go on the third date, go on the fourth, go on the fifth. Like a penny will drop, and this chemistry is just going to be like fire at some point. And you know what? It never was.
So you're telling me it didn't happen on the 6th date? No?
With other guys in my past, yeah. Oh, like I was seeing a guy for months, and I think I kept telling myself that everything was like perfect on paper, but deep down it wasn't there. But I
Were you
hadn't
ignoring
done
then how you were feeling about it? Yeah.
I hadn't done enough work on myself to realize what it was I should and should not settle for.
Okay, interesting. I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. So physical, then we go chemistry.
If
there was a third, connectivity.
Yeah, same thing, I guess.
Okay, nice.
If there was a third, do you know what? I think there's a gazillion after those 2, James.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've always said it, confidence is a huge element of attraction for me. I think if someone can hold themselves in a room, be sure of who they are, be sure of their values, be sure of where they want to go in life, confidence without being cocky, of course, I think is a really attractive trait that everyone would love to see in another half.
And why do you think that is? Why is confidence such a, because it is a big factor. It is a big factor, especially if you are someone that has some confidence about themselves already. You want your partner to match that level of confidence that they have. Why do you think it is, it is a big factor?
I think we live in a world where there's so many different things that are trying to knock us or like convince us that we have to be a certain person or a certain thing. Like there's so many aspects of society that put these like fundamental beliefs into our brain from when we're like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And you think I have to go this path. I think if someone can have the level of self-awareness.
That's it. Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, that is so hard for people to develop. It's like, wow, you have done some work on yourself. You know who you are, and you're not easily influenced or swayed by society.
Yeah.
That's really attractive.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. And as you were saying, that confidence, what I would associate with confidence is like self-acceptance.
Yes.
Like you don't mind sticking out from the crowd. And that is a great thing, because I think when you're confident, you will tap into just being more authentic.
Yeah.
You just be yourself. And deep down, when you love someone, you just love them for who they are.
Yeah.
So they can display that and demonstrate that. You're like, Jesus, I'm connecting with this person straight away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And confidence doesn't have to be the loudest person in the room. Like I would always say, I'm not that person. I'm happy to be the quietest human in a group of people. And then when it comes to my turn to speak or the topic that I'm sure of, I'll speak confidently. I think that's important to say, because a lot of people can be introverted. They can be shyer. You can still be shy and be confident at the same time.
And you can develop confidence as well.
Absolutely. You have to.
Yeah. Would you have been shy growing up, or would you have been shy in general and then develop confidence, or how did it work for you?
I think it's been a real roller coaster journey. I think when I was a child, I would have been really confident. I was like a stage school kid. So you're dancing away on stage, and that I think that really helped me develop
definitely
confidence.
does, because it's self-expression.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there, yeah.
Majorly. And you have to really perform your best and smile the hardest to get into the front row. But then I did go through a really, I suppose, just kind of tough period in my life. It's not a pity party. Like we overcame it, where negative body image took over, body dysmorphia, an eating disorder. And I think throughout that period, I lost a lot of my confidence, a lot of my self-worth. And I had to build it back up again. I wish it never happened, but it's probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because all of those fundamental beliefs that were put in there from like childhood that I probably built my confidence off, kind of everything got shaken and taken away from me. And I've heard this metaphor a lot lately about like your mind and your kind of spiritual being, shall we say, being like a garden. And the soil is like what you really have to nurture. But sometimes all of the plants and sometimes the weeds that are there were put in when you were a child from what society was telling you. And I think I got very confident then. And I went through this period of my life in my early 20s where all of the plants and weeds got ripped away and I had to completely kind of rebuild the makeup of this soil so that it nurtured a new garden that I put there that was a whole new kind of realm of confidence for me. So have I been confident? Yes, no, and yes, I feel like I am again. Does that make sense?
I love that. Yeah. I love even the analogy or the illustration of a garden.
Yeah.
And replan it. Yeah.
I heard it in a book and I heard it at a workshop recently, so I can't take credit, but I think it's used quite a lot and I love that idea.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love that. Tell me, just to round off this kind of bit on attractiveness and being more attractive, for guys anyway. Any tips for men to boost their level of attractiveness?
I think it's that self-awareness
That's a great one.
trait that we spoke on, James. And that's not something you wake up with someday and you go, I'm going to be self-aware. I know who I am. I know what I want in life. I know my worth. I'm going to be confident, but not too confident. Like you're not going to wake up this person.
Yeah.
It's just doing the work. Like I feel like that's overdone.
I know that answer. Self-awareness is just an interesting thing because it gives you the ability to notice more in life. But has there ever been a practice for you that's helped you develop your self-awareness?
I would say continuously telling myself to react less.
Okay.
Like I would have been a devil when I was younger for being like super defensive. I'd react really quickly in situations. So I'm like, hold on, just take a minute. Think this through before you respond. And then, send the message later. Is this really the right emotion that you have right now? Can you work on this? I think that's been something that's helped me a lot. And also working on being a better listener.
Interesting. Being a better listener.
I think like if you're going out on a date or you're meeting someone, I think a lot of people feel the need to speak a lot.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
And the other person's speaking and they're not taking any of it in because they're thinking about what they're going to say next or how they're going to impress them. And I think sometimes the best way to impress someone is to actually be a really, really good listener.
It definitely is, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of emotional intelligence as well. When you can be a good listener, yeah. And definitely if you're ever on a date, just let the woman, just ask her so many questions.
Yeah.
Because men need to keep mystery as well. So the less she knows about you, the better though. Because it keeps her in suspense.
Sometimes,
and women love talking. Just let them, ask them questions about themselves and they'll talk all day.
But I do think a lot of people don't ask their woman or their date enough questions because they're just going on about themselves. So I think
which isn't impressive because if someone talks about themselves, you're like, just shut up.
Yeah. There's an element of it. Like
there is a time and a place for it, but I think in that situation, to just let the woman speak.
Yeah,
let her speak. Moving on. This is something I've been dying to. Well, every topic is, but this one in particular, make copying a pre-selection. We kind of touched on it before we got going, but what I want to understand from yourself is, but actually first off, what pre-selection is, right?
Yeah.
So
I hadn't heard of this until just pre-recording. You were telling me more about it.
This is all crazy. Based on kind of evolutionary psychology, how our minds work in regards to mating. So say for an example, right? Hypothetical example, if there was a man and a woman, they're kind of seeing each other, they're not necessarily together. They are seeing each other, right? And then he's in a coffee shop and he's with another woman. She's kind of flirtatious. She's into him. That other woman will kind of get jealous of
the one looking in the coffee shop window.
Looking in the coffee shop will get jealous. And a good example, actually, an even easier example to give, right? Especially young guys will understand this. When they get into their first relationship, when they get their first girlfriend, all of a sudden they get all this female attention. Is because another woman has validated that man to be a good mate.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And women tend to, if they're interested in that guy, get jealous. It's just a natural reaction. Yeah. So the question I have is, how does that emotion work for women? And I'm guessing you've probably felt in the past, whether it's towards a partner or maybe someone else that you've been into. How does that emotion work in the body and how does it feel? Because I think men don't really necessarily understand it.
So do you know the way I was saying there, one thing I've had to work on a lot is my reactions and my initial thoughts. And I think that's something that I've put into work a lot when it comes to the feeling of jealousy. I think I'm someone who years ago would have really let jealousy kind of fester, and it nearly would have turned me into a kind of hasty person. So let's say the guy is on the date in the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And then he sends me a message that night. For all I know, this is his cousin in the coffee shop. But I'm like, oh, he's on another date.
Yeah.
How?
With another woman.
Yeah, with another woman.
She's beautiful.
So when he messages me, I would have been the type then to be like, I'm not going to try and win you back. I can't believe you got on a date with someone else.
But does that not like that emotion of jealousy? Not like it's if like women love to be kind of emotionally spiked. So getting that makes you more attractive to him because there's like this other dynamic of another woman trying to take your man.
This is the thing. I think it would have turned me off in a sense that I'm like, I'm done chasing you.
Okay.
If you want to go and be with someone else, you can be with someone else. But I think this had this like reverse effect where then I'm giving them less so they actually want more.
Okay, the push-pull. Yeah,
I think it's a real push-pull. But I think when it comes to jealousy, James, it's not a bad thing. I think there's an element of jealousy that is healthy. Like Max and I would talk about this sometimes. Like if a group of girls approach him for a picture, or like he got a message the other day saying, can you just react to my story or send me a little message or something so that I can show it to my boyfriend so that he gets jealous. Like this is an actual message that he got. I'm sure he won't mind me saying. And I was like, you're not actually going to do it, are you? And feed into like a toxic relationship there.
But that's crazy.
And he was like, of course not. But there's a bit of me that's like, kind of jealous. Like, like you're getting asked that.
And that makes you more attractive to him because another woman she's not necessarily pursuing him, but she's asking him to do something for her.
Yeah.
Did it make you feel is jealousy the right word, or did it made you feel a certain way?
It was a little bit because it's like you're getting female attention.
Yeah.
So there's an element of jealousy, but it's not unhealthy jealousy. I think it's just healthy. Like we can joke about it.
Yeah, true.
I think it's being able to treat it in a healthy way so that it doesn't cause you to become this toxic person and start playing a game of jealousy. And oh, you were on a date with someone in a coffee shop. I'm going to make sure I'm standing somewhere talking to a man at the time I know you're going to walk by so that you feel jealous too. I think it's just putting yourself above all of that if you can.
And I think I liked your initial reaction. Like you said, if you were to witness something like that you would actually push back. I think that shows a sign of kind of higher value in yourself, that you're not going to play a game like that where
we're above games. Like if you really want to meet someone who is going to be the love of your life, or that's going to help you build like the love of your dreams, that is your partner in this world, like should you really have to play this game of cat and mouse at the beginning? There is an element of it, James, that girls want and guys want. But there's a fine line as to what's too far there. Yeah.
And I suppose if you're coming at it from a kind of different paradigm, if you're looking for the love of your life, that's one thing. But if you're maybe trying to understand which direction you're going, I think the playness of it kind of comes in, and it does make it somewhat interesting as well. Yeah. And like I said,
we all love having stories to
tell,
that's
it. That's it, 100%. I think we covered everything there. Jealousy. Yes, the word actually I want to touch on is called, in regards to mate selection, which is quite interesting. I don't know if you've heard this term before. But
I have.
Hypergamy.
Oh, no, I haven't heard that.
Hypergamy. So how women actually date men is they'll always date across and above. But women always want to date a man that's better than them. What I mean by that is a man that earns more money, that has a lifestyle that's attractive, that is like, he's a good trajectory in a career sense. He's ambitious, very important as well. But this word hypergamous has come up time and again in the evolutionary psychology side of things. Yeah. And I think it's very interesting. Women want to be provided and protected for. They have to also think of, children in the future. So they want a guy that's going to be able to do that for them. I don't know if I necessarily had a question. Actually, I suppose a question from that would be, what would you look for in a mate? I know obviously you're with your boyfriend Maximo, but what would you look for in a mate in regards to long-term success of the relationship, or kind of long-term thinking?
Oh,
even think of
there's
like
so
what
much
Max
here.
is doing now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think it's knowing that, like, if life throws you a curveball, we're going to be able to work around that. Like, let's say life is going brilliant right now. You're achieving all your dreams. You're about to, I'm about to say take on a position as a national radio host. I'm not, but let's say I was. Yeah. And he's about to go and race in the TCR World or F1. But let's say that all falls to shit.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that? Are you still that same soul that I met when we first met? Or is your surroundings all that's carrying you? I think that would be something that's really important to me. And we've spoken about this and we've been like, if we end up with nothing, that's okay. We're still here. We're
That's
not.
beautiful.
We've had this conversation
That's
that's like,
beautiful.
we're not with each other for the social media because like we're two people in a small town that have this small social media following. Like in essence, it's small when you look at the big fish, but it's big in a small town. So we're kind of like, if we get hacked, if that disappears, if we end up without a car or whatever it is happens,
It's not
if we're in
about
an
the
accident,
success. It's about the
it's not
person that
about
you
the
are.
success.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you're saying with that term about how women want someone who can provide. They have this trajectory that they're following and X and Y and Z. But I think that's changing. I think that's an old generational mindset. I really
You think
do.
it's changing?
I think it's changing
Why?
somewhat because like I just spoke to a girl from my podcast, right? Yvonne Trakian. And she spoke all about how she wanted someone who was just as independent as her. And like one of her best friends told her that herself and her husband, they're literally just like two completely independent individuals doing their own thing, skyrocketing within that happened to be in a marriage. She wanted someone who was just as driven and independent as her. So what I mean? She wasn't looking for someone who could look after her.
The woman's not being dependent on the man.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she wasn't looking for someone who could look after her. It wasn't necessarily like that. I'm not saying it's changed.
Yeah.
I think that
But that's a
mindset
good
is still
example.
there.
That's a good example.
Like I think of some of my friends and I'm like, yeah, all they wanted was the man who could provide. They want to be the housewife. They
But
want
that's
to
a very
be
natural thing.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
that's what you want and that will make you happy, that's fine. It's recognizing what you truly want and what will make you happy.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's shifting, James.
Interesting.
A little bit.
Yeah. I do agree to you in some sense because women are very ambitious nowadays and women are, as it's known now, out earning men, getting better qualifications in college, getting better jobs. But I also think in a relationship and in even a heterosexual relationship as well, there's a power dynamic.
There is.
And I do believe that the woman should always look up to the man. And why I say that, not so the man can control her. I don't mean it like that at all. I know. But I think like a man should be on his mission. He should be finding his purpose in life. He should be moving forward. He should be able to provide and protect. When that gets lowered down and they're almost equal, I think there could be a possible loss of attraction there because of that. Because she has to see him greater than her. I think it's very, very important.
I hate that I'm agreeing with you here, but I am.
Yeah, but it's natural law. Like this isn't something that I've just pulled off the internet. This is actually well known for decades. You know what I mean?
But I think what frustrates me is I feel like there could be some women. I feel like I was this woman too. So I'm not like getting at anyone if you're listening and going, oh, that's me, who fail to pursue their dreams, their passion, their purpose because they feel the need to stay below their man and let him be the one that is leading or that they will always look up to or that is a position higher.
Yeah.
But then there's this flip side of the coin that, well, if you step above him, will there be a loss of attraction? It's a really difficult one.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you make a good point there as well. I suppose if you're with a partner, you want to see them flourish into their full development of who they are.
And you want to do it too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I also believe between the masculine and the feminine poles, there has to be a sense of polarity for it to have attraction and whatever else that goes with it. But that's to kind of summarize
I love that question. It's really interesting.
It's very interesting. I think hopefully you get an expert on it in regards to your own podcast, but it is fascinating because it's all based. This is like, it hasn't changed. It's over hundreds of thousands of years.
But there's always outliers. And I feel like there's becoming
more and more outliers nowadays. Yeah, definitely. Like I mentioned before, women are out earning and they're doing way better than
girl
men.
power.
Fair play to them. We're going to move on, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of things are online nowadays, as we all know. And a lot of people do their dating through online apps, which, to be honest, I'm not really a big fan of at all. Were you ever a big fan of them?
I was on and off them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But every time I went back onto them, I was like, God, the same people are still here. But I guess I was like struggling to meet people in the real world. So I download the dating app again.
Yeah. How did you find that balance? Like trying to meet people in, like you mentioned, like you just said there, in the real world and not on this kind of online artificial sense. How if you were given advice now, how would you advise someone to go and meet someone in day-to-day
in the
living?
real world?
Yeah.
I'd say don't diss online dating. I do think there can be a lot of success and success stories from that. It's just so much harder to find someone if you're truly looking to meet someone and it's not just for fun. It's hard to find someone online who isn't just looking for fun.
Because there's so many options.
A lot of people online are just looking for fun and they're happy with the options and to go through them all. They're not ready to settle down. So I think there's maybe a higher risk of getting hurt there. But if you're looking to meet someone in the real world, I think like anything or the same as online, you have to be ready for this possibility of rejection, of getting hurt, of struggle and getting tested by different people or the universe or whatever it is. You have to become more confident. You have to be ready to put yourself out there into uncomfortable situations. If you're dying to meet someone and start a family or make a life with someone, start sharing memories, that's not going to happen sitting at home on your couch.
Or scrolling through
or
Tinder.
just scrolling through Tinder. You got to get out there and go. This is often said, like, go to the places where you think you're going to find your person. And just because you go to the run club or you go to the art class or whatever it is, that doesn't mean you're going to meet them there. So if you come home and you don't meet them, you can't just go with this sole intention of meeting your soulmate at this run club. You need to go because of your love of running. But you have to start putting yourself in places where you will find someone who has those qualities that you're looking to find. And that, so one thing that I spoke about with a lady in my most recent recording, so it's probably so prominent in my mind, is that you can't put a time limit on that. So you can't say, well, I'm going to join this run club and I'm going to meet the love of my life by December.
You can't rush things.
You can't rush that. Yeah. So I think you just got to push yourself out there more, but realize that that is going to be uncomfortable. And as humans, we don't like discomfort, but that is where growth happens. You're not going to meet someone who's going to help you become your best self, sitting at home watching Netflix, even just scrolling. If you're scrolling through Tinder with no intentions of actually sending the message or trying to connect with someone.
Well, women don't tend to send a message first, and they shouldn't really, or should they?
I suppose they shouldn't. I probably wouldn't have, but then there's nothing to say that you can't.
No, I'm not saying that you can't.
I know, but
you know
right.
what I mean. Just
I totally would have been that girl that would just sit back and be like, will he message me?
Exactly, just to see if he will drop a message. In regards to actually dating apps in themselves, and I guess maybe you've probably used a few in the past.
Yeah.
Is there anyone that you would recommend out of Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, etc., etc.?
I only ever used two. I only ever used Tinder and Hinge. Did I download
Hinge
Bumble?
seems to be so much more popular nowadays.
Yeah, I just thought out of the two that Hinge was better because there was a little bit more of an insight into someone's personality. And there was more of an option to like respond to something because you have those prompts. Isn't that what they were called?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, but I will say the option to have a voice note, you know, that you could put like voice memo on Hinge, kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Because it's too much.
It's, well,
you know, that's a big part of attraction as well as how someone sounds.
It depends on what was said. But I remember I used to often play them and I'd be like, oh God, he sounds like way too much. But then some of them I'd play and I'd be like, interesting.
Look, what would make for an appealing voice?
That's a difficult one to call. That's a difficult one to call.
They normally say a deep masculine voice always sounds better.
Yeah, but then some girls like love a really strong northern accent.
Oh, everyone loves a northern accent.
Yeah, but I don't think that's like a deep masculine voice. That's like a northern accent.
It's very unique, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's a difficult one to call.
That is a difficult one. I was going to ask, what would make, for a guy that's setting up, say, a Hinge profile, right? How could he approach making a good profile for himself?
The optimal dating profile.
The optimal dating profile, yeah. Because in Hinge, you've got 6 photos, 3 prompts.
Yeah.
If he's setting up from scratch, how could he do it to get the best outcome of as many dates as he's looking for?
Yeah, I think the prompts really matter on Hinge.
Oh, yeah?
And I think that too many people had the very same prompts on
What's a good prompt? Like, just off the top of your head. You don't even have to give it an example.
What's a good one?
Yeah, if you can remember.
Do you remember do you remember? There probably still is one there. That was like 2 truths and a lie.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was one of the best things ever.
Because it's fun.
It's fun. There's a guessing game, but you're really getting to know someone a little bit as well because you're like, God, one of these is true. Yeah. But it can't be, not that it can't be. I just think it should be something a little bit more fun than like, I like, coffee, I hate tea, and I have pineapple on my pizza. Like, something like make it a bit more fun.
Make it a bit more about you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And something that people would never maybe guess. I think that was a great prompt to have. When it comes to the photos, it's like all the classic stuff. Like, look, don't have a photo that really doesn't depict who you are in life now. If you're picking your best photos from like the year when you were at your leanest, feeling your best, you're on holidays, you've got a tan, and all of these pictures are from when you were traveling Thailand. Yeah. But now you're pale, maybe you have a couple extra pounds on you.
That's the worst one. You go pale. That's the worst one.
I know. But like maybe you're going to show one of your best pictures, but have something that's real, authentic right now.
Yeah.
Just you. You're easy to pick out. If I remember, like, and I know people would relate to this, you put up 4 or 5 group photographs and you have to go through and pick out who that person is. Typically, though, to me, that shows that there's a lack of confidence there. Why aren't you happy putting a picture up of just you?
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to some guys about this, and they were like, but I don't have pictures of just me.
Guys are terrible. I know girls are absolutely brilliant for taking solo photos, but like,
maybe
guys are
you need
shocking.
to make an effort to be like, listen,
You do.
can you take a photo of me
Or
here?
become conscious of it.
Yeah,
Because I think your online profile nowadays matters a lot because someone is getting to know you. If you don't have it, I know we're talking about from a dating sense, but if you don't have a profile online, they're like, they can't relate to you. They can't, they can't tap into who you are at all.
Yeah. So I think it is important to be conscious of that. If you're trying to build a profile online, maybe help someone get you some more recent photos.
Yeah.
Don't wear sunglasses. I think smile showing your teeth in at least one photo.
Very important.
Yeah. And just give an idea of who you truly are. Like if every photo is you in work, that's a bit boring. Like show me you on the hills
Women
or
love excitement.
in the gym or doing the like half
Traveling
marathon,
somewhere.
whatever it is. Like show us more of you, like truly, deeply.
I love
Truly
that.
matter deeply.
I love that. And Tammy, say this guy sets up his profile. He's looking good in all these photos. He's actually tanned as well, which is an added bonus. When he gets a few matches, what should his approach be? Because I've often thought as well, like you can't be texting someone for weeks on end because it just doesn't work. I feel like you need to be short, sharp, and like.
I've always been someone that's been like, well, short.
Oh, no, sorry, I don't mean short, sharp. I mean just set a date up as quick as you can.
Yeah.
If you're actually interested in this person.
Yeah. Like, look, you can go and Google some of the best first lines to send someone on a dating app, and they're brilliant. And I think they're fun. I think the cheesy lines are actually really fun. And if it makes someone laugh and respond, I actually think they're better than just sending a like, "Hey, Natalie, how are you doing today?"
That's so boring.
Like, they are kind of boring, and it's terrible that like if a guy came up to me in real life when I was single and said, "Hey, Nathalie, how are you doing today?" I probably would have been like, "Jesus, like look at you. Like you're confident. You're coming up. You're just striking a conversation in real life. This is great." On an app, I don't think that's great.
No, it's not.
I think you need to be fun and flirtatious, and if that means Googling to find the best chat up line, do it. Look, it's all for shits and giggles at the beginning of a conversation. Grab their attention. From there, I used to hate, and maybe I'm the minority, when guys would start sending essays. Do you know, so what do you work at? Oh, well, I work in this, but I started off in that and I actually studied this and I'm hoping to go into this. And all of a sudden I've got like, say, 15 lines of a message in front of me. And I'm like,
that's way too much.
Just
like
can't.
A paragraph.
Yeah, can't. I think keep it short, keep it fun, keep it snappy. If you really want to meet up with this person, make sure they're not like, you know, a murderer or a psychopath. And then like, just make it happen. Would have been such a stalker when it came to online. Yeah, like I definitely think ask for their social media before you meet them because it's going to give you a way bigger insight into what they're actually like.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, stalk their social media, see if there's any mutual friends, if someone knows them. It's so funny. I'm still a member of this page on Facebook called Are We Dating the Same Guy?
Oh, I heard this, yeah.
And it's so gas. Like the posts still pop up on my feed when I'm scrolling. You have to get like accepted into it as a girl. So I can't be giving you all the deets.
How many people are part of that?
Oh, there's thousands.
Is there,
but girls are really sticking up for themselves there. Like I saw a picture posted of a guy recently that was actually someone who was nonstop messaging me, and he's still there with all the red flags that he had before, with a girlfriend, dating people, like with a different girlfriend, messaging people. It's mental. But yeah, when it comes to meeting someone, I think you want to do it as soon as possible because you will lose interest if you're messaging over the space of 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's way too long. What's the window if you were to give any sort of advice?
Jesus, I think that's very personal, but like.
Yeah.
My initial reaction is like, I'd say a week to a week and a half. But also, if you're someone who is extremely busy, as everyone is right now, don't go swiping hoping to meet someone if you know you have no time in your schedule to go on a date. And like, let's face it, a lot of people are probably listening from small towns in Ireland. So you're going to be looking further afield. So if you need to drive an hour and a half to meet someone, well, what's the point in scrolling, trying to meet someone where you know you don't have a half a day to give there to meet? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You've got to have that time in the schedule or be willing to give it. And be willing to give it all for nothing because it mightn't work out, and continuously give it until it does.
Yeah, true. And say, for instance, this guy set up his Hinge profile. He's done his prompts. He's tanning the photos. He's texted this girl. They've been talking for a week and a half. It's all going well. And he's got on a date, first date. What is a no-go and what's a go in regards to things to do?
Oh, it's so
From your
probably
opinion.
like societal of me, which I usually go against, to be like be a gentleman. Like if you can pull out her chair for her, do it. If you can
So
open the door,
bring her for dinner.
bring her for dinner, or
Yeah, bring her
even
for
if
dinner.
it's like coffee and a walk. Like
Okay.
I still think that's a lovely first date. It's so cliche, but sometimes dinner can be very intense.
Too intense.
It depends on the
It's very
person.
kind of like form. You're like sitting across from each other, and there's like this. Yeah.
So when Max and I went on our first date, he pure gent was like, listen, like I want you to be ready for 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
Do you know what I like about this straight away? This guy's assertive.
Yeah.
Women love being told. I think women
That's really
never want to
attractive.
think. Now, this is going to sound terrible, right?
Yeah.
But women just want to be told what to do, what to almost wear. Just be here at this time, be
Yeah.
ready to go. Because it just shows this guy's got it together.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's the leader.
And I loved that.
Women do never ever want to lead
No.
a man anywhere.
Preach
they
it.
want to be led.
Yeah.
They want to be led. And just Jesus Christ, how many guys I've ever seen in the
Led
past.
but not misled.
Yeah, led but not misled. Very well said. Very well said.
But yeah, I think that's definitely something that they should do. Like, listen, not be like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Or where do you want to go? Or like, why don't
See,
we
the woman's
meet up?
already thinking now,
Yeah.
and that's not a good thing. You just want her. You know, she should think at some stage, but just you can't ask them to make any decisions.
No.
You have to be assertive.
I
It's just
think
the main
if the decision is, why don't we get a coffee and go for a walk in like Marley Park or whatever it is, brilliant, that's the plan. But I hated this, like, let's just meet up and see what happens. Like, I've gone on a few dates like that in my single era where it was just like, we drive around and it's boring as shit. And like, we'll get a McFlurry and we'll sit in the car and you'll drop me home. Like, no, it needs to be more exciting than that.
Yeah,
But like, he was like, be ready for 6 or 7 or whatever it was. I'm picking you up. I've dinner booked.
nice.
It's a surprise.
I love this guy's style.
like-
I see that what he's done at the end as well.
Yeah.
Women love spontaneity as well.
Mm.
I've only learned this only recently.
But
But
I
women
was
love
someone
spontaneity.
who was very like, oh, I really want to know what we're doing. And he was like, look, it's a dinner. And I was like, okay, fair. But in my head, I was like, oh, dinner just sounds so like serious for a first date. But you can make that fun.
You can make it
So
exciting. Yeah.
what happened was a friend of mine sent in to our like Snapchat group chat. I'm such a kid silly using Snapchat, but hey, listen, I love it. But she sent it in saying she was selling Keen to Grow tickets for Kilkenny.
What's Keen to Grow?
Keen to Crow, the singer.
Oh, Keen to Grow.
Keen to Crow.
Can't
It
say I
comes
know
out
it.
all as one word.
Okay.
You'd know some of his songs.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, that's the Thursday. Max, is there any chance we could change to Thursday and I'll get my hands on these tickets and we could go to that after? I just wanted to make it like fun, bring more fun into it. I also wanted to see other sides of him on this date. Do you know what I mean? Like sitting down at a table 1-to-1, when you have to go up and move and walk around, get into the bar, order the drink, stand there, look at the artist, there was just so much more that I could learn about him in those moments.
Yeah.
So we went for dinner that he booked, and afterwards we went to this like kind of small intimate concert with
Cool.
Keen to Crow.
Brilliant.
Ryan Mack was sponsoring, or not sponsoring, what's the word? Supporting. And best thing we could have ever done,
That's
because
deadly.
it was fun,
It's a good
as
first
well
date.
as we got to know each other so well. There were serious questions,
Yeah.
but then there was so much fun. So yeah, but when it comes to things that guys can do for that first date, like be assertive, plan it, maybe get to know what she does want to do a little bit. But when you're there, make her feel seen.
Yeah.
Like listen to her, ask her questions, like just make her feel heard and cared for. When it comes to the whole first kiss side of things, I feel like you really have to, I feel like sometimes guys are absolutely shit at like reading the room.
They're
Getting to
guys
know
in
the
general
vibe.
are terrible.
Like
I'm
they're,
sure there's some good guys out there, but guys are terrible.
yeah, I
Terrible.
love that you're a guy saying that guys are terrible.
Yeah.
But there was definitely like dates in my past where I'd be like, he's not getting this. Like I'm trying to give pure friendship vibes. I know he's going to go in for the kiss, and I'd be too much
And
of a
he's thinking
people
in his
pleaser.
head, this is go time.
Yeah, like how do we get them to read the room?
Just say, I have to go. I have to go.
Yeah, but I think like if you can say something on the like that, let's say you do want to go for that first kiss at the end. I think that's a good thing. I think I would. I think sometimes if a guy doesn't go for the first kiss and you were into it, you're like, did he like me or did he not like me? But then that's difficult because I'm also just saying, guys, read the room and don't kiss her if she doesn't want to. It can be hard to know, especially on a first date if you're different types of people. If you can drop some sort of line, that is like saying that you're like attracted or that you want to kiss them, that you might do it later.
I don't think you should be so blunt about it. You could almost be like, what colour are your eyes? And look at their eyes for a second. You'll just know.
You'll just know.
You'll
That's
just know.
a very good
You
one.
don't have to be like, do you want to kiss me? You know what I mean? I just
Or like, let's say you're walking.
Or maybe you could put it in a more playful way than that, of course.
Let's say you're walking and you throw your hand around them, or you go to take her hand, or I don't know, you fix her hair, whatever it is. You're like, is it okay that I'm doing this? Because I totally don't have to do this. Like, you're going to know straight off. And she'll laugh about it and joke about it and be like, yeah, of course it's okay. Or she'll be like, oh, maybe you should take a step back there.
You'll feel it from her as well.
I hope.
Well, you
would.
hope that. Yeah, you hope that. That's not always the case as well.
Mm.
Did that magical kiss happen at the end of your first date?
So yeah, we were in the bar in Langton's, right? And he said something like, Jesus, I'd love to kiss you right now. But he was also laughing.
I love it. Go on, Max.
He was laughing and joking. He'll kill me for telling the story. But he was laughing and joking and being just the fun guy that he is. And I was like, don't you dare do it right here. And kind of laughed.
Nice.
But then I was like, you can save it for later. Yeah. So that was like, okay, now we knew we were on the same page there and then.
That's nice.
But it's so funny. He obviously knew I did social media, James. So Cian Ducrot was singing a song. It was Heaven. I can't remember. No, I can't remember which one it was. But I actually recorded us. We made a joke that we were going to like make all the couples on first dates around us feel uncomfortable because we just became so comfortable with each other so quickly.
That's nice.
So he threw his arms around me. And we're there swaying to the song, and I recorded us singing just like one line, like flash on, holding out the phone. Everyone's looking at you like, who are these tits? But anyway, then 6 months later, we're at a Cian Ducrot concert in C Sessions, and I did the same thing. And then I put the edits together. It was like first date, and then 6 months later, and the song just transitioned into the line perfectly. And I posted it on TikTok, and it's got like, I think, it's definitely got over 1 million views and so much engagement.
Wow.
People being like, this is the love I'm after. But it was
that
just...
is so cool. That is lovely as well.
It was nice,
I think one thing you kind of touched on there, just feeling comfortable in someone's space.
You'll know.
Is so important.
And you can't force that. It's there or it's not.
Yeah,
like I know...
That's that chemistry side of it once again, yeah.
I know people are listening going, I've tried to force that comfort and that chemistry and tell myself that I would be comfortable. Like I have in the past, James, gone on a date, knowing I didn't want to go, but being like, like I need to meet someone, so I'll go anyway, and maybe he'll be different this time, and maybe I'll feel more comfortable. Told my mom if I text her to call me with an emergency that I had to get home because I had a feeling he was a bit of a sleazebag, and I wasn't comfortable going anywhere physically with him. I really wasn't, but I was like, I feel like he could be the sort of guy that's just going to be sleazy and try and make this happen because I was going to his house for the first time.
Yeah,
I was so uncomfortable every single second of that dinner. Like, look, lovely guy, just not for me.
Yeah.
But sent mom the message straight away. She rang me. Oh, your sister's not in a bad way here. She's really upset. You're going to have to come home. I can't console her. Yeah. And like, I knew that he could even hear her, like, I'm really sorry if this guy's listening. But like, I just had to get out of that situation. That's such a worry for
women as well. Like, women are so, like, compared to men, like men are very, very, very strong. Much stronger than women. Like,
I just watched Woman of the Hour on Netflix, and after watching it, I was like, Jesus, Max, that actually fucking terrifies me.
What's it about?
It's based off a true story, and that's what terrified me. This man, can't remember his name, who basically like he raped and killed numerous women. Eventually he was found out, and I think he got accused of doing it for like, was it 13 women? But they suspect he actually did it for 130.
Oh my God.
Like just missing women in America. But they kind of go through, they recreated some of the scenes, and God knows how true they are. But at the end, like the lines come up on screen saying he was arrested. 13 women came forward. They reckon there's been 130 because there was a few women who got away, but so many who didn't. But it was just like the strength that he had over these women, the power to emotionally manipulate them to go into this like quiet place in the middle of nowhere because he was a photographer and just wanted to take some nice photos because they were so beautiful and he was building on his portfolio. Now you're in the middle of a desert. Yeah. Gone. And it scared the life out of me. But this is where Max was like, and that's why you never leave my side.
Yeah. Man, good protector as well. Can't beat that. Tell me, have you ever heard the term simp?
Simp?
Yeah, simp.
As in being really mean and calling someone a simp?
No, there's kind of like a new term nowadays.
I was like, James, don't say that.
Simp, it refers to a guy that's like he puts women on a pedestal. He's like chasing after them the whole time. He's like, "Oh, you're so beautiful." He just overcompliment.
Okay.
Have you ever heard this term? No.
Not in this manner. Like I've heard people use it in a really mean way to be like, "Oh, your man's a simp." Like, do you know?
Like
But just if he's just being pure thick.
pure
You know?
thick.
Yeah. I know that sounds terrible. I'm not saying I've called someone that, but like that's.
Have you ever
that's where I've
experienced
heard
that
it.
where like guys are like chasing out? They're like over complimentary. They're just like, oh my god, they just
Yeah.
won't shut up with compliments. And
Yeah.
it's like it devalues the compliments because
Yeah.
it's like they're trying to be too nice.
Yeah.
That's a main kind of issue with it. Touching on kind of niceness and nice guys. Why do nice guys fail, Natalie?
Why do nice guys finish last?
Why do they finish last?
So when Damien and I were hosting the podcast, we did a full episode about this, and it was one of my favorite episodes ever.
Could you move your mic just a tiny bit?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
Here we go.
Perfect.
Am I okay there?
You're good.
it was one of my favorite episodes ever. Speaking about why do nice guys always finish last, and we came to this conclusion that it's not that nice guys finish last. We want a nice guy.
You want a good guy?
We want a good guy. No, we want a nice guy.
Like, oh, yeah, okay.
But we don't want a guy who will change his mold just to fit what I'm after. We don't want a guy who has no sense of kind of, integrity, but like a belief system. Who doesn't have a belief system and just creates his belief system based off what he thinks you want to hear.
Because
we want someone who is self-aware.
And I think you want someone that's strong and someone that molds other people. It's normally a sign of weakness and a very kind of masculine.
People pleaser.
Yeah, people pleaser, exactly. Yeah, but nice guys, like you said, they give in. I just think
I feel like the
they've
guy.
no boundaries. They don't set boundaries either.
Yeah,
like women could walk all over you, and you just haven't set the boundary. You haven't set that masculine boundary. Like, no, this is not on, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be.
You literally hit the nail on the head. Like I think it's the nice guy that finishes last is the guy who does allow people to walk all over him, will continuously change his schedule and what he's doing to work around you.
Yeah.
Literally sees you in this light that you could never possibly do anything wrong. And everyone can do things wrong. And you have to be able to have confrontational conversations.
Yeah.
And it's the guy who can't do that. And if there's a guy listening going, crap, that's me, or I've been told that I did that with this woman in the past, that's okay. You just thought that's who you were supposed to be.
Yeah.
Now you just need to go and do the work to, put up those boundaries, be a little bit more assertive without being, mean or cocky. No one's looking for that. No. But it's just becoming a little bit more assertive, I think.
Yeah. And you're tapping into that kind of masculine energy because I think women like being put in their place if they're out of line as well. And I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all.
Yeah, the way you say it sounds so, but I know.
Yeah. I mean, like if they're out of line, they want their man to step up, and because she's always testing him. She's testing his masculinity the whole time.
Yeah, I know of someone who she'd be like, I love that he puts me in my place when I'm being moody or being like just too short or blunt or wrong. Like I love that he puts me in my place. Which can sound so strange, I think, because it's like,
well, you're not rewarding bad behavior. Because if he was to not put her in her place, she would continue to do it and she would walk all over him. And women don't want a man they can walk all over. They want a man they can respect and admire.
I think it's the saying, put in her place. I despise.
Oh, I get that.
I think that's what it is.
There's a better term.
There's just a better way to put it. It's like he's able to have a confrontational conversation with me to vocalize how he feels and makes me realize that I have actually been too stubborn or X or Y. He's able to have a communicative conversation knowing it's uncomfortable for me and uncomfortable for him, but that in working on this, it's going to deepen our relationship and see it go further into the future rather than put me in my place. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about that. It's like, I'm not a puppy.
No, I get that. And that was very well said as well. Moving on. There's so many things I want to cover, so I need to get through them. Approaching women in the real world. A lot of guys have anxiety around it because each and every one of us has kind of fear of rejection, whether it's being rejected from a community or rejected from your friends or rejected from a woman. We don't like it to happen. But it needs to happen if you want to meet someone new. You know what I mean? You need to approach, you need to go say, hello, how are you? Or whatever the line might be just to get you in the door and shoot your shot. Just give it a go because there's nothing worse in life than living with regret. You'd rather be rejected than live with regret because regret's so heavy. And you could have taken action and you didn't.
Absolutely.
How could guys, approach women in a better sense and not come across too creepy? Because I think that's probably an issue as well. If women are getting approached, they might feel a bit uncomfortable and might feel this guy's a bit creepy. But is there a better way of doing it that you've experienced from your past? Or Any stories?
Yeah. I think, like, listen, just don't be a sleazebag. Like, some guys, like, initially are way too touchy-feely.
Okay.
And you need to realize that someone has, like, a bubble of personal space. And for you to enter that, like, bubble, it's a big deal to some women. Like,
you should never touch them straight away now.
No.
Just make them feel uncomfortable.
Like, there's a particular guy in my past I'm thinking of, and he would always, like, there's a hug hello. Like, when I came in here to the studio into Primal Productions, it was like, oh, James, what's crack? Good to see you.
We kind of know each other already.
Yeah. But, like, even someone who I've only been meeting for the first time to interview on a podcast, if now I'd kind of judge from their body language, but I'm like a hugger. I'd be like, oh, hey, what's the crack?
Yeah.
But there's a hug hello, and then there's a hand on the lower back giving you like more of a squeeze, or there's like giving you a hug where their hand is like around your neck and you can hear them giving you like a little kiss or something. And I just actually feel like getting sick.
Well, that's just
when I think about the guy who did this.
Yeah,
but there's guys who think that's okay because they think they're being like flirtatious and cutesy. And I know that like an element of being like flirtatious is like, oh, you might touch their hand or touch their leg. Give it time to judge, like, you know, the situation.
That'll take a few encounters.
Yeah. So I think being a gentleman and treating someone as if it's like, I don't know, you know, your best friend's sister. Like, if your best friend's sister was looking for a lift somewhere, or for you to drop her to X or Y, or she wanted to run in and get the coffee, or she just needed to have a heart-to-heart, like, be that same gentleman with her as you would with a girl on the first date.
Yeah.
By the end of that, you're going to know if you're able to push that boundary a little bit further. You can't go wrong in being a pure gentleman and treating this woman as if it was your best friend's sister. And then if there's a bit of a spark, you're going to know if you can act on it somewhat. You can't go wrong being a gentleman. You can go wrong being sleazy.
Yeah. That's a great point. So, you know, act as a gentleman, and then if there is a stage where you can progress it forward, you'll just know. You'll just know.
Yeah. And if you get shot down, when you spoke about rejection, like, you need to realize that that's just part of this world. That's part of dating. And if you get rejected, you can't let that knock you and stop you from continuing to seek out, you know, your soulmate in this world. Or finding the love of your life. You need to view that as just being another stepping stone towards finding your person.
And also, especially for guys, you actually build so much confidence just at least trying.
Yeah.
And not cowering away from it. If it doesn't work out, so be it. Just move on to the next one.
There's been guys in the past where obviously things didn't work out between me and them. They just weren't my person. I just wasn't theirs. But to be able to joke about that and laugh away, being like, hey, listen, man's got to try, whatever, it's all good. That's fantastic, because if I bump into you somewhere else in the future, there's not going to be this like, oh my God, he's in there and that was like terrible the way it ended and I don't want to see him and I better hide in the car. It's like, oh, hey, how are things? Just leave things on like, you know, a really good.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah. And you never know.
So true.
Like, someone could come to you. Especially if you're in a small town. Someone's going to be like, hey, do you know, what's Tom like? He sent me a message. You might be like, oh, Jesus, we actually went on a date like years ago. Sure, he's a lovely lad. Couldn't fault him, just not for me. I mean,
as they say, your reputation always precedes you.
Yeah,
so,
that's so true.
You want to leave whoever it is with. Always on good terms, the best you can. I love them. That was actually great advice. So be a gentleman, know when to, you know, bring it forward, etc., etc. Very well said. What do I want to touch on next? The body. I'm fascinated by the body. Love working out. I know you're big into your health and fitness.
Yeah.
For a woman, anyway, from a woman's perspective, should I say, what is the most desirable body part that you see on a man, or that you are attracted to in a partner?
That I'm attracted to.
Yeah. Is there one element of the body you're like, Jesus?
Oh, this is such a difficult question, because like, so I have had I have had my wars with body image. So I try to take worth away from the aesthetic and the reflection. However, I'm someone who is hugely into my fitness. I've tried to disconnect aesthetic with my training over the last while, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that, you know, your body image doesn't matter, because it always will.
Yeah.
Like, if I, you know, gained 20 kilo in a short period of time, I know I'd lose self-confidence. So me saying the body image doesn't matter is bullshit too, because it does. But I don't want to nitpick. So I try not to nitpick on other people, because I don't want to do it to myself.
Yeah.
But if a man walks in and he's just athletically somewhat built, I'm not going to lie, like, Max walked in. He was athletically built. I was like, okay, he can look after himself. He's into the gym. I'm into the gym. You need someone with common interests. That's it. So for me, is there a body part that, like, if that's the direct question, I'm just like, look, if you're athletically somewhat built, I think that's really attractive. But however, if you being built this way means that you also have to have a disordered relationship with food, can't enjoy a night out, can't just go to get the chippers or whatever it is from time to time, can't share the sweets with me, I don't want it.
Yes, you want a more relaxed approach.
I want someone who's balanced. And to be fair, he has that down. But let's say I have some friends who, we'd be looking at pictures, or we would have been scrolling on Tinder together a couple of years ago, and this guy would be there topless, absolutely jacked. Like, you're talking just absolute shredded six-pack. And I'd be like, oh my God, he's a babe. And she'd be like, that is way too much. Like, I do not want to be around that.
As well, isn't there? They don't really want the...
I think a woman who is like mad into, training, quite lean, does competing, whatever it is, she's going to seek that out in someone else.
Yeah.
But let's say it's someone who just likes to go for walks now and then, couldn't care less about body fat percentage, just like really just wants to be well. She kind of wants to match up with someone of that same
That's
level.
true. Yeah, I suppose it's demonstration of value as well, isn't it? Or demonstration of the values that you have for yourself.
That all said, when I put up a box on my Instagram recently, it was like research for the pod, asking people what truly turns a woman on.
What a great question.
Now the question kind of was in a non-physical way, what truly turns a woman on, but still some females gave me physical answers. Back came in a lot.
Okay.
And forearms came in a lot.
Forearms? Interesting. Damn, we need to get work on the forearms.
I don't really get it. Is it like vascular forearms? I don't know. But they did come in a lot, I'll say that.
Forearms are normally associated with grip strength, so you can grab and it's
throw around the place.
Throw around the place.
I don't know.
Exactly. Throw her here, there and everywhere. I love it. Good answer. Great answer. You're very good at these answers, Natalie. You're well.
I'd want to be though, doing this podcast for so long.
Exactly.
But I didn't prepare too much. Like I had a look over the questions and I went, yeah, okay. I'm just going to see what comes to mind.
Free flowing, just based on experience or just your insights that you have already, which is great. We've got two more things to cover before we finish anyway. But we're living in a world, like I mentioned earlier on, that's kind of female dominant. The females are outclassing the males. They're literally excelling in every domain. So women almost don't need men anymore. That's the way it's becoming. And there was kind of a phrase I picked up as I was doing
I don't need a man.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good song as well. So in Western society that we're living in nowadays, women are slowly shifting into an attitude that they don't need a man. Do you believe that's helpful or that's going to hinder women? How do you see that going? That advice, like women don't need a man. Because to be honest, if they don't want a family, there is not a necessity for a man. But then also, I think a big part of life is companionship and having a relationship. That is like your experience right now. It's a beautiful thing to see two people in love. There's nothing better than that. And I'm fortunate enough to say I've experienced it myself in the past. But it's like, if you don't have that in life, I feel life is almost very shallow. It feels like something is missing. It's empty. But in regards to that statement, how do you view it? Do you think it's more harmful or it's actually maybe a good thing that women are heading that way?
I think it's more harmful than good. Like everything, James, there's a freaking fine line here and there's a balance to strike. But the saying extremes are easy, balance is hard is one that I really believe in and try to like live by. Like everyone,
extremes are easy, balances are hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you think about it, it's probably so much easier to go, you know what? I don't need a man. I'm totally fine on my own. I'm completely independent. I'm not letting anyone come in and maybe break my heart, shake my world, upset me. I'm just going to be fine on my own. Like to be that hard ass, it's way easier to shut someone out than it is to let someone in. I mean, the risk you take when you fall in love is heartbreak.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you are trying to live in this world where you're like, you know what, I'm fine on my own, but I wouldn't mind meeting someone. I really would like to, find a companion that I can share this life with. That's way harder to strike that balance, to be like, I'm open to having my heart broken. And I'm also trying to be fine on my own in the time that I see if I can meet someone. Like that's a far more difficult balance to strike than it is the extreme of being like, I'm all out, I'm done. No, I'm going to be a crazy cat lady, whatever it is. So I think that that thought or way of living can cause more harm than good.
Yeah.
That said, like I just said, the risk of falling in love is heartbreak. So you have to be willing to take that risk. And if you get your heart broken, then go and do all the self-help, the journaling, speak to the friends, get the support. You're going to get through this. It's okay. It may take some time, but like heartbreak is one of the most kind of universal feelings that everyone goes through, and yet it's one of the most difficult things to go through.
And it's the most ecstatic as well when you're in love. Which is crazy. So
it's such a high.
As they say, love is a gamble.
Yeah.
You never know. You truly don't know
how
it's all going to play out.
You have to be okay with
and
that.
Would you have many single friends nowadays that are like, going away from even having any sort of interest in men? What's the actual, dating scene like in your group of friends?
It's strange. Most of my friends, when you say my group of friends, I have a homebirds group, is what we call ourselves. Now, we've probably all grown a bit distant over the last few years because of our dating situation.
It happens, yeah.
It really divided the group. Some were engaged, some were having children, and then there was like 3 of us there that were just single Pringles. So 3 years ago, we headed off to Marbella together, had the best fucking holiday of my life. Like 3 single girls, we were like 28, whatever it was, and we just had the best time. But then you've other girls in the group who are engaged, saving up for a mortgage, and that did divide things a little bit. But when it comes to the dating scene right now, like amidst my group of friends, now we're all nearly seeing someone. But for a time there was like just myself and one of the girls that we weren't. And we felt completely disconnected from the others as a result. It was just
different stages of life
difficult,
as well.
Yeah. But then I have more friends that I've met through this like content creation and podcasting sphere that are single.
How do they find it?
I think
the single life.
I think they enjoy it more than they let on to.
Oh yeah, why is that?
Like
just the excitement of meeting new people.
Yeah. I went to a workshop recently, and like I walked in, the first thing the girl said was, "How's your boyfriend?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's good." How are things with you?
Well, it is almost the most interesting part about someone.
But I don't think it should be.
From a female's perspective, it is, because they're so. What did they say that like men are more interested in things and women are more interested in people.
Maybe because I felt so victimized or something by that statement in the past, where I would have to explain, they'd be like, "How's the love life?" And I'm like, I don't want to explain my love life to you. I would never ask one of my best friends as the very first question, or someone who I've met for like just the second time at a workshop, "How's your love life?" I just would never do it. So I didn't like that she did that, because I was like, there's more to me than my boyfriend, but okay. Let's talk about it.
Was that the opening question she asked you? Okay, that's maybe a bit too much.
No. It was like
maybe
the opening question.
Hello, how are you first?
Yeah, so I was like, and how was all your traveling recently? I saw you were traveling, and I was like, why can't we
Do you
talk
think
about
it
this?
was almost an attack or not an interrogation, but like she was?
I think it was a projection, maybe, of something she was unhappy with. Maybe, I don't know. But I do think that when you're in your 20s or 30s, your relationship status can cause a divide with your friends. And I wish it didn't, but like it did with me. We're still all so close, but it does cause a divide. You're at a different place in life. That's okay.
I also think as well, like if you're in a relationship with someone, your time and attention tends to, all be focused towards them.
Yeah. And myself and one of my best friends, we've had that chat. We're like, look, we are always going to be best friends, but I understand if you meet someone before I do, you're going to be investing all this time in them, and that's okay. Because if they're going to be your person, your companion for life, you've got to invest that.
Exactly.
And I can't be, hasty towards that.
Not at all. And like your friends are always there anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the one thing you can rely on, your friends, whether,
True friends.
True friends.
You know who is true and who is not.
That is dead right. I'm going to read out this statement now.
Okay.
We can talk about it. We're nearly there. We're nearly there now. We're nearly at the end of the list. But this is what a woman. Should I say what is it that women really want? Right. So it's a list of things. I'm going to read it out and then we can discuss a sec. But men who are devoted, men who are committed, men who are strong and stable, men who court us, men who know what they want, men who are secure, men who are adventurous and mysterious. And then he goes on to what women want. But women want to be pursued. They want to be desired. They want to share and to grow. Women want pleasure. Some women actually want marriage and children. Women are tired of having to ask. Women pretend they want to be in control. But what they really want is to let go more. And then the last one is women will do almost anything to be taken care of. Is that a good way of encapsulating basically everything we've kind of spoken about here today? Was there anything that surprised you? I know it was a long list.
Yeah, no, like, again, there's a part of me that hates how set these things are, but I do think that is,
I think it's built in.
I think that's a really good statement. I think it's fairly bang on.
Yeah, I think the whole...
And there's always outliers.
There is, yeah, dead right. I think the whole dynamic between the masculine and feminine is well known at this stage. And it's very interesting when you start to study it. It's like, it's so black and white. It's like, it's so obvious what women want. It's so obvious what men need to be for their woman or for women in their life as well, that it's like, it's just, there should be more common knowledge.
Yeah.
Because things between, even in a relationship sense, will go so much better if you understand the principles between the masculine and the feminine
energy.
Yeah.
It's funny, James. I had a girl message me before and she was like, I've heard so much about masculine and feminine energy and how I need to be in my feminine more that like I'm overthinking it. And it's like date number 3, I've decided to ask him over. And I'm going to make him dinner.
Yeah.
But
that's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, but she was like, now I'm afraid that I'm not being in my feminine enough. But he's done everything for me. He's paid for the food. He's collected me. He's done X and Y. So I feel like it's my turn to do something. But I'm afraid that now I'm being too masculine. And
no, I wouldn't say.
It's funny because like, I think everyone has different definitions of the degree of masculinity and femininity that should be present in their relationship or their situationship or connection or whatever. Like I was at an event a long time ago and we had just started the podcast and we were talking about, you know, should a guy pay on the first date, the second date, the third date? And I was like, I definitely think you should pay on the first date.
I think you should pay for the first 6 or if not more.
So then I was like, maybe it's the first 3, but I'm also, go on.
I was just going to say, if you let her pay for the date, you're losing, oh, I need to get the right word out here. You're losing a sense of control in the dynamic that's going on.
Okay.
Because now she is the one taking responsibility for what's happening. Does that make sense? And it's a gentleman thing to do. It's just pay for the occasion, whatever
I
it
wish
is.
it didn't feel so weird when a woman pays.
It shouldn't feel weird. I don't think it should either.
No, but like to pay on the second or third date, I'm a strange cookie in that I'd be like, I'd love to sneak to the bathroom and pay and just be like, oh, I paid. But also there's something really nice about him paying. But I was like, okay, yeah, I can see where you're coming from, James. 6 dates. That's
if not more. Like I think a man should just always be able to take
so I was like,
care
look,
of the financial side of
at
things.
least the first 3 or 4. And then if we want to have it or whatever, like it is nice for a man to be able to take care of these things, but I'm probably very much so like, well, I can take care of us to a degree too.
Yeah.
But then there was this one girl who was like, no, definitely the first 10 dates. And then there was another girl who was like, no, if I'm going to carry his children, he can pay for everything. He can pay for
She needs to slow down a small bit.
And I was like, sorry, what? No, if I'm going to carry his children, I'm going to raise them. But then she was like, oh, I'm happy to be a stay-at-home mom and raise our kids.
Straight away if you want to get married to someone.
I know.
You're not like after 5 dates, you might actually be like, this is the one.
But that's where when it comes to the degree of masculinity and femininity, it's going to differ for everyone. But I do think there's an element of, you know, being more feminine and allowing him to be in his masculine at the beginning. That's key. And then I think it's all individual dependent. Like this girl who was like, am I not being feminine now because I've asked him over and I've offered to cook him dinner? And I brought this up with a guest on my podcast. I put it to him and he was like, do you know what? If it's the right person, you're not going to have to overthink it. If it feels right to ask him for dinner now, do it. Like, do you know?
Do you find it easy to fall into your feminine energy? You seem like a very feminine woman, but do you find it easy just to tap into it?
Yeah, I do. I probably have more so in my relationship now than I ever have before. But I think that's because it's like the right person.
The right person,
and we've found this nice balance of like the amount of masculinity he wants to portray versus the amount of like femininity I want to portray is just balanced really well. And I think when it's the right person,
it's a beautiful dynamic.
That will just happen.
And you feel there is a real sense of energy, and especially, you know, talking from the masculine point of view, there is it's a good feeling to feel what the energy of you is.
Yeah.
It was terribly put.
No, but I know what you mean. It's more so like, you know who you are.
Yeah.
Like you have a degree of masculinity that you will always like to put forward. And I don't think that's going to change too much to increase or decrease.
Yeah.
And when you know what that level is and you find someone who like vibes with that, that's a lovely feeling.
It is. That's it. It is a lovely feeling. Right, Natalie, we're going to play a game to round this up because poor Dan's waiting there in the background. Yeah. Anyway, so it's called yes, no, and why. So you can answer yes or no to the question and then just give maybe a brief explanation. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
It's about 5 or 6 questions.
Okay. Hit me.
Does she want him to be the killer? What I mean by that, let me slow down because I know obviously that Netflix episode you mentioned on. I'll give a bit of an example here because I think it's needed. Say you're in bed at night with your partner, you hear some shuffling going on downstairs. Does the woman, should the woman, not even should the woman, does the woman go downstairs to find out what's going on, or does the man? Does she want that killer instinct in him? Yes,
she does. Why? Because it's nice to feel protected.
There we go. Brilliant. Do women want status? This is an interesting one. So this kind of comes back to the evolutionary psychology. What I mean by status is if they're with a partner, they want to live a better life, but women do seek out status from their man. So a guy that's doing really well, like even a great example is your partner, Max.
Yeah.
He's doing really well. He's an athlete. He's moving his life forward. I mentioned that kind of trajectory and ambition earlier on. Mm-hmm. From you being with him, there is an increase in status. Is that something that women deep down they want to have?
Ooh.
And I know you want to say no.
It's really hard to give a yes or no because I actually think it's individual dependent.
Okay.
That is like just
Let's go with your own opinion then.
Yes.
Okay.
But the definition of that status is going to be so different for each couple and relationship dependent on their career and their family background. So like Max and I are both in careers where there is an element of status within both.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice for both of us to continue to rise up that ladder together. And we push each other too. But let's say you're from a small community in Connemara, that status might be just running the local community development group.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's perfectly fine too. So I think like the why is just something that's like built in there from years ago. But I think the degree to which that status, takes you is dependent on the person.
It's subjective. It is subjective. Yeah. It depends on the
I know
person.
there are such annoying answers to get. Like it's individual dependent, but it just really is.
Yeah. So you did say yes.
Yep.
Okay, brilliant. Women want to feel desired?
Yes.
Resounding yes, of course. Women want to feel wanted, which is very important.
Yeah, like I don't think that even needs a why. Who doesn't want to feel
wanted? Exactly. And then last one, women don't want to be put on a pedestal.
Women don't want to be put on a pedestal, as in like a true or false.
Like,
I know it's yes or no, but
no, this is like completely like just from your own opinion. But like women don't want to be put on a pedestal or like obviously they want to be looked after, wanted, cared for, etc., but they don't want to be the be all and end all of a man's life.
True. Yes. We don't want to be the be all and end all, because if we are the be all and end all of a man's life, well, there's the definition of what we said, like this nice guy that finishes last is. Yeah. He's completely changed his life and his mold to work around you. And everyone should have two separate molds that just come together and fit like a lock and key that's meant to be. And you shouldn't have to change that lock or that key.
That is a brilliant answer. That's exactly what it is.
That said, when you said pedestal, I was like, well, I do want him to look at me as being like, the best looking woman in the room, or like the sweetest soul out of everyone else here, the most caring person. But when it comes to like phrasing it that way, I don't want him to change who he is for me.
Yeah, there's a great book I read, The Way of the Superior Man, and there's a chapter in that book and it said she doesn't want to be put first, and an example it gives, it's like a man has been called to go fight a war and his missus runs out, she's like, oh, don't go, I'm going to miss you so much. She's bawling, crying, she's so upset that he has to leave, and he's like, babe, I love you, but I have to go. So that's situation one. And the second situation, same thing happens again, she comes out bawling and he's like, okay, I'll stay. She actually loses respect for him, because a man, the most important thing in a man's life is his purpose. It's like his core that gives him strength.
Yeah.
She always wants to be second. As harsh as that sounds, you love your man more because he's following true to his own word.
Like you're hitting the nail on the head. I'm like, I'm going to miss you so much when you're gone, but go.
Go, exactly.
go do it.
Nathalie Lennon, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun. And you answered the questions brilliantly. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
If people are looking to find you? Where do they look online?
So my Instagram is at Nathalie Lennon _. My parents were awkward and spelt that with a H, so it's Nathalie. Nathalie Lennon _. Same on TikTok, and then like our podcast is, I say our because I feel like it's like Dan and myself here in prime at the moment. It's the Dating Games. And seriously, thank you so much for having me. I've loved every second
It's been
of
a
this.
pleasure. All the best, everyone. Take care. Boom!
That was great.
That was good fun. That was a